In this video, I will go over how to change the spark plugs on the M113K engine. This includes cars from the E55 to the G55, all with the 5.5 liter supercharged V8. The tools needed for this job include copper grease, a spark plug boot tool, a T30 Torx bit, a 16mm or 5/8 spark plug socket, extensions and swivel extensions, a feeler gauge, a torque wrench, a ratcheting wrench, and also a mirror. You're also going to need access to compressed air and a vacuum, as well as some contact cleaner. The spark plug boot tool is essential for this job. I'm using a modified deep offset wrench that is cut to the size of the spark plug boots, which fits 17mm wrenches. You can also buy a dedicated spark plug tool. I will be using the factory spec NGK ILFR6A spark plugs. You can also use colder plugs if your AMG is modified. One-step colder plugs are less detonation prone at higher boost levels. The plugs that I'm using come pre-gapped to the correct 0.031 inch for the M113K cars. However, it's still a good idea to check them with a feeler gauge just to make sure the gap is right. These spark plugs are coming from FCP Euro, my go-to place for auto parts for my E55. FCP has unmatched customer service and they guarantee what they sell for life. Long story short, I will never have to pay for spark plugs again for this E55. Link for all the parts used in this video are in the description. So under the hood, you're going to start by removing the front engine cover by pulling up on the front and then pulling up on the top corners. Then you're going to pull off the snorkels by pulling them towards you and up, and then by pulling upwards on the bottom side. Next, you're going to lift the air boxes off their rubber mounts and then push upwards on the top of the intake while pushing on the retaining clip. Make sure you disconnect the hose at the back of the intake. Then you can navigate the intake over the throttle body and out of the engine. I'm covering the throttle body to prevent any sand or dust getting in because we will be cleaning the engine after we remove the coils. Now we are removing the ignition coils and spark plug wires. I'm starting on the driver's side of this left-hand drive car with the spark plug boot tool to remove the boots of the spark plugs. Then I disconnect the wiring harness from the ignition coil and I unscrew it using the T30 Torx bit. Don't forget to pop out the screw so you don't lose it down in the engine bay. And then you place the coil off to the side. Then I pop off the next two boots with a special tool and remove the first coil entirely. Then I proceed to unplug the harness for this whole side of the engine and lift it out of the way. Then I unscrew the T30 bolts for the remaining coils. Once again, I pop off the spark plug boot and move the coil to the side and then pop off the next boot. I'm placing the coils and wires on a table in the exact order that they came off the engine. At the back of the engine, the space gets tighter, but the process is still exactly the same. After this, you are to repeat the exact same process for the other side of the engine. With the coils out of the way, I can now clean the engine by vacuuming all of the sand and dirt that is accumulated on the valve covers. A critical step is to blow compressed air into each of the spark plug areas, followed with a quick vacuum. We can't let any sand or dirt into the spark plug holes. The next step is to attach the spark plug socket and extensions and begin removing the spark plug with the ratcheting wrench. On the new spark plug, you are going to want to put a dab of copper grease and then carefully insert it back into the engine, threading it in carefully. Once they are screwed in, you're going to torque the plugs to 25 Newton meters or 18.5 foot-pounds. The process is the exact same for all 16 spark plugs. The old plugs were in okay condition for me, but the threads were a little oily. This is because the car used to have a valve cover gasket oil leak that was fixed only a few years ago. Once all 16 spark plugs are done, I replace the coils and wires which have been cleaned with a contact cleaner. In reverse order to removing them, the boots click onto the plugs. When installing the wires, the outside wire on the coil always goes towards the front of the car, and the inside wire always goes towards the rear of the car. On the valve covers and on the plug boots, they are labeled to show this. I'm not replacing the spark plug wires this time around, just cleaning them with a contact cleaner. They last longer than the plugs, and I'll replace the wires the next time I do the spark plugs. Next, you return the ignition coils back to their spots on the valve cover and reattach them with the T30 bolts. Then, you plug the ignition loom back into the coils with a click on each one. Repeat this for the other side of the engine. Since I have the intake out, I'll also be replacing the air filters. The airbox comes apart with a T25 Torx bit. I'm using Mann Air Filters from FCP Euro. After removing the glove, I'm going to take the intake and place it back over the throttle body, navigating the clips. The intake then clicks in and the airboxes pop down onto their rubber mounts. I reattach the snorkels and the front engine cover pops down. The engine is ready for its first start. This job is done. Thanks for watching, and if you like videos like this, be sure to leave a comment and subscribe for more videos.